With more than 5 months left in the year, SpaceX has surpassed its previous world record of 31 for the most rockets launched in a calendar year. Recently, the 32nd launch of 2022 saw a Falcon 9 rocket launch from the Californian Vandenberg Space Force outpost, placing an additional 53 Starlink satellites in orbit. It brought the total number of satellites in the Starlink constellation close to 3,000, allowing SpaceX to continue on track to complete 52 orbital flights this year, while also increasing the network of internet users in space. How was the private space company able to achieve this in record time? Sit back and relax as we delve into the details of the launch. After its most recent flight, SpaceX broke 2 significant records in what Elon Musk called a flawless mission. Over the weekend, 3 rockets were launched and successfully landed by the Musk-backed Space Exploration Corporation. 3 rockets were launched by SpaceX recently during the course of 36 hours. The impressive feat made it the quickest 3-flight series for orbital rockets in the annals of space exploration. Most flights are separated by at least a full day, with many averaging between 5 and 7 days. The company's Falcon 9 rocket, which was utilized for the 13th time recently, is now SpaceX's most frequently launched spaceship. In the upcoming years, the private space business intends to launch tens of thousands more Starlink satellites, eventually providing global coverage by 2023. For a monthly price of $110 and a one-time cost of $599 for the equipment required to receive the signal, consumers can already access high-speed internet using the satellite internet service, which is currently offered in 36 countries. For an additional $2,500, a Starlink Premium subscription introduced earlier this year offers faster download speeds and greater dependability. What a time to be alive! According to SpaceX, Starlink internet transmits data through space's vacuum, where it moves considerably more quickly than through fiber optic cable and can cover a significantly larger population. According to the company, Starlink now enables video chats, online gaming, streaming, and other high data rate activities that historically have not been possible with satellite internet, with fast speeds and latency as low as 20 milliseconds in most places. However, it has found users in regions affected by natural catastrophes and armed conflict. The Starlink service is primarily intended for people in distant places where conventional ground-based telecommunications infrastructure cannot reach. In Ukraine, where SpaceX has canceled the customary monthly cost in response to Russia's invasion of the Eastern European nation, an estimated 150,000 people utilize Starlink to stay connected. SpaceX launched 53 Starlink satellites from Florida's NASA Kennedy Space Center. The German military was the target of a launch from California's Vandenberg Space Force base. The final flight took a communication satellite for the company Global Star into orbit at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Musk thanked his company and the crews on Twitter for their flawless operations. He congratulated the SpaceX Falcon team for carrying off 3 faultless launches in just 2 days. After an open letter was leaked recently, SpaceX employees made headlines. Musk was criticized in the memo addressed to executives who described him as a distraction and embarrassment. It seems in a frenetic effort to put its own internet satellites into space, Elon Musk's SpaceX then surpassed the previous record for the most rockets launched in a calendar year. SpaceX is practically racing to develop the network of broadband satellites that is Starlink. The company's Vandenberg Space Force Base launch facility in California served as the launchpad for the flight. So far, SpaceX has put almost 3,000 Starlink satellites into orbit. With the reusable Falcon 9, which SpaceX claims can be reused up to 15 times, the most recent mission keeps the company on track to meet its target of 52 orbital missions by the end of the year and roughly double its annual launch tempo. The business has used the same approach with its fleet of Crew Dragons, reusable spacecraft with a gumdrop form that launches atop the Falcon 9 and transports people to orbit and the International Space Station. It seems the Falcon 9's speedy reusability and the advantage associated with employing in-house rockets played a huge role in SpaceX delivering Starlink satellites into orbit more quickly than its competitors in the satellite internet race, such as satellite operator Webb. Webb has launched its satellites on a Russian Soyuz rocket as it nears the completion of an internet network with fewer satellites. Due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the company canceled its Soyuz contract and will now be using the Falcon 9. Russia's attempts to alter business agreements, postpone delivery, and inadvertently seize property from Western customers have eroded the industry's confidence in the country and its renowned rocket. It appears that the Soyuz's prospects of success have been considerably affected by the effects of Russia's war in Ukraine. The Russian government basically obliterated the economic potential of Soyuz, claims Caleb Henry, a senior analyst at the research and consulting firm Quilty Analytics. Russia's behavior raises the potential of permanently eliminating Soyuz from the list of launch vehicles used throughout the world, he concluded. Recent actions have effectively paved the way for US and European companies like SpaceX, Rocket Lab USA Inc., and Arianespace SA by accelerating the movement away from Soyuz. Other launch vehicles have been putting more pressure on the rocket. Contracts worth billions of dollars could be up for grabs to support humankind's exploration of space, the delivery of supplies to the International Space Station, and the launching of private satellites. As Elon Musk has established SpaceX to a sufficient level, it is safe to predict that he will seize this chance. It makes sense to expect that other rivals won't fall behind too. Rocket Lab asserted that it is already thinking about how to launch its newest rocket more swiftly in order to fill the gap left by Soyuz. Whether we like it or not, SpaceX has made a lot of remarkable space launches. SpaceX has now successfully launched 32 times in 2022, and there are still 5 months left in the year. It's practically a record for both SpaceX and all launch companies. Turns out the new launch was originally scheduled for the 21st of July, but was postponed because 46 seconds before liftoff, the Falcon 9 computer noticed an abnormal readout from a MERLIN engine. Following an investigation, SpaceX eventually followed through. As we mentioned earlier, SpaceX has lofty goals. SpaceX's Starlink constellation has promised to provide high-speed broadband internet to the entire planet. According to a recent tweet from SpaceX, Luxembourg, Saint Martin, and Saint Barthélemy are now included in the 36 nations that Starlink now serves. It is well known that the business, which was established in 2002, is a major player in the commercial space sector. Aside from breaking the launch record, SpaceX hopes to conduct its massive Starship rocket's first orbital test this year. These tests are currently taking place in Florida. While Starlink is a hopeful step towards ensuring everyone has access to the internet, it is not without its drawbacks, as astronomers are worried about the threat that Starlink poses to space vistas. Since the satellites reflect sunlight, they cause streaks in the astronomical data gathered by ground-based observatories, and Musk's new announcement of larger, more potent satellites could make this noise worse. A significant regulatory barrier has recently been removed by SpaceX, paving the way for the Starship's first orbital test flight, which may take place in the coming months. The Falcon 9 boosters are also scheduled to launch a number of other commercial and government satellites, a moon lander, NASA astronauts to the International Space Station, and a group of civilians to orbit on billionaire Jared Isaacman's second trip into space, in addition to the regular Starlink launches. The Falcon Heavy formation, which entails 3 of the boosters lashed together for very big payloads, may also be used to launch even more Falcon 9 boosters. The SpaceX launch schedule for the upcoming months also includes 3 challenging military missions for the US Space Force. This is only the beginning for SpaceX though, as there are even more records to be broken. Commercial spaceflight has evolved over the past few years from being out of reach to something of a passion project for some of the wealthiest people on Earth. Starship, an interplanetary rocket that may be the first spacecraft to carry people to Mars, is currently under construction at Elon Musk's SpaceX. In the new era of commercial spaceflight, Elon Musk's company has set the bar extremely high for launch cadence and rocket recycling. These initiatives mark the transition of the space industry from the government to private ownership, and we can't wait to see how the industry evolves in the future. What do you think of SpaceX's new record? Comment below.